In the spring, I took a really lovely holiday. We went down to Seville in Spain just before Easter, but it really poured with rain. The people who lived in Seville were very happy about it because they hadn't had rain for months, but we got absolutely soaked. So when my sister told me yesterday that she was on her way there, I said, I do hope it doesn't rain, and shared some of the photos of the torrential weather we had when we were there. And I also saw later her photograph of her husband who was sitting under some awning. It was raining, but he had a nice glass of wine in his hand. And I said, oh, you must try this particular place where you can get an orange wine that they make in Seville. Now, why am I telling you this shaggy dog story? The reason is that although that holiday was back in Easter and it's long gone now, I spent the money on the hotel, spent the money on the flights, spent the money on the meals, and that's all gone. But the fact is I still have the memory of a lovely holiday. I've still got the photos of the holiday, and it provides a topic of conversation for me, and probably will for years to come, because believe me, it really was torrential rain. And I'm telling you this because I want to illustrate to you the importance of the fact that sometimes we pay for something, but the impact of what we pay for lasts a very long time. So have you ever been in a situation where you've been speaking to a potential client about how much you charge for your counselling, and they're a little bit unsure as to whether or not they should pay you? Perhaps you get the idea that they think your fees are a little bit too expensive for them. And that can make you shrink back a little bit, and it can be very hard to justify what you're doing. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. And it can be even more difficult if you're already charging and you're thinking about putting your fees up, perhaps because the cost of living has gone up, or perhaps because you're seeing a lot of clients and you realise that actually you've got a good demand for your services. If you raise your prices a little bit, that means you can see fewer clients but still earn a similar amount of money. But there's something holding you back, and that is the fear. It's the fear that if you raise your fees, you could be seen as being a bit selfish, because why are you doing this? Or you could be putting yourself out of people's reach. As I said in my post that I did yesterday in the Good Enough Counsellors feed, often what can happen is you don't realise that actually people aren't quite as price sensitive as you think. And if you're able to communicate the value of what you do, people will often pay more than you expected. So let's just have a little bit of a think about this. The first thing I just want you to remember is that when people pay you, they're not paying you for the hour. We tend to think, I charge an hourly rate and it's this much, and that's really expensive for an hourly rate. But in fact, people aren't just paying you for the hour. People are paying you for so much more than that. They're paying you for all your years of training, all your years of experience, your years that you've been in therapy, the years that you've spent learning, so that when you're sitting in front of them, you're not being somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, who doesn't understand what the client is going through. You've done the work. And that work can consist of so many things: qualifications, life experience, practical counselling sessions, and all the times you've sat and listened to people. And that's what clients are paying for. They are not paying for the hour, they're paying for the years. Now, it can be really difficult to persuade clients, that's probably the wrong word. It can be difficult to show clients the value of what you're doing. It's hard for them to understand that they're not just paying for the hour. But the way that you can help clients understand that is by expressing the value of what you do in your marketing. So next week's podcast, I'm interviewing Nicola Pott. And Nicola works with the breath, and she works with emotional freedom technique with tapping. She does a lot of somatic work around trauma. And one of the stories that Nicola told me was that she was working with somebody who had lost a baby and been through a lot of a really difficult fertility journey, and was very, very scared of getting pregnant. And when Nicola worked with this person, what happened was that the client was able to feel so much more confident, and they went from a place of being really fearful of getting pregnant to actually being excited about getting pregnant. If you think about that, what an impact that work that Nicola did had on that person's life. Because if that enabled that person to get pregnant, if that's what they wanted, and then they were able to have a family, can you imagine the lifelong impact of Nicola's work on that client? And I don't think Nicola's alone in what she does when she works with clients. I know that you too have a lifelong impact on your clients. I know that when I've been through therapy, it's given me an absolute lifelong impact in terms of my relationship with my family when I've been in therapy. So what we do, the value of what we do, we don't measure it by the hour, we measure it by the years. And it's really important for you to show that to clients when you're talking about the value of what you do. And as I said in my podcast last week, if you listen to last week's podcast, which is writing your directory profile without feeling like a fraud, what it's about, it's all about how when the imposter syndrome comes in, it's very difficult for us to claim that what we do is actually going to make a difference to people's lives. So please do listen to that podcast. If you ever feel like a fraud or you're struggling with setting your prices, please do just tune into that, because it's talking a lot about why you're not an imposter and what you actually bring when you're working with clients. So remember, people aren't paying you for the hour. They are paying you for the years. Tune into this week's podcast as well, which is coming out this Thursday, because I talk a lot more about the process and understanding the value of what you do. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.